Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this third roundtable on STEM education and innovation. We're very excited to have all these wonderful experts today from Germany, and I would like also to thank the people that are here with us, the audience. I'm sure that it's going to be a fantastic debate, and let's hope that after these roundtable, we will all be excited, enabled, and ignited by STEM for schools, for all the schools. And then I'll give you the floor, all of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rosia, for the kind introduction. And yeah, thanks for all of the people out there on the different platforms joining us today. We are very excited to be here, and we're very excited to have you. And we hope that this is going to be an interesting 1.5 hour discussion. And we hope that we can spark some interests and have a lively discussion at the end of this roundtable discussions. And I'm very happy to have such a fantastic panelists today, which I'm going to introduce to you in a second. But let me first share my view on why we are doing this. I think the 21st century holds massive challenges for us. I don't have to repeat this. You all know this. We have to decarbonize our whole economy. That's going to be a huge effort. We have to deal with the consequences of climate change, that will be like rising sea levels and droughts and wildfires and thunderstorms. We have seen so many, and for these big challenges, we need good solutions, and we need creative technological solutions. And studies in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and maths, that's where the solutions can be laid a foundation. And unluckily, there's not so many people choosing these subjects. And why this is the case? Well, we're trying to find out, and we're trying to find a way of how to improve the status quo, and what could be improved to making this different. And with me here at TU Hamburg, so we were in the north of Germany. We have a sunny weather outside, you wouldn't believe, but that's the case. And also some panelists are in other parts of Germany. I will introduce them 1 second. We're here to discuss how we can enable, excite, and ignite students for a STEM career, for really making them able, giving them the tools to change the world for better. And with us today is Julia Freudenberg. So Julia Freudenberg is CEO and founder of the Hacker School in Hamburg. And she will, I'm sure she will tell us more about the Hacker School in a second. But thank you very much for being here. We have Sebastian Starks, who is the developer of the app Freeforks. And that's basically, it's an app that turns your mobile phone into a physical lab. It's super exciting. I have it on my own phone. I play with it around all the time. But yeah, Sebastian Starks, they won a whole lot of prizes. And this is like a very good example for an app that can disrupt STEM education. And I'm very happy to have him here as well, share his thoughts on how to program apps and what you have to think of. Then we have Gesine Liese, who is the head of KINDERFORSCHER and NachwuchsCampus, which is she's also the founder. So 15 years ago, they founded this initiative that promotes STEM education and amongst kids in schools. And they have a fantastic initiative. It's super popular and very well received, where they engineer didactic material boxes they give out to schools, and then they can make experiments so to help teachers making STEM education more fun. And I'm very happy to have you here as well. Then the next speaker I would like to introduce is Olaf Zeiske. Olaf Zeiske is a biology teacher at a high school here in Hamburg, and he's particularly into innovating everyday school teaching, and he has been collaborating with our university for quite some time in trying to make education at school more cutting edge and more interesting, and yeah, he's kind of the link to the school, to our recipients, so the ones that we want to reach with that. So I'm very happy to have you here with us as well. And last but not least, Andrea Brose. She's the director for teaching and in the Center of Teaching and Learning here at TU Hamburg. And she, this Center for Teaching and Learning tries to improve the way we teach here at university, and how we can improve the methods that we in teaching that we do. And so she will give us a fresh view on modern didactics and how which role digital tools could play in this role. Okay, as you see, this is a quite diverse panel, and yeah, I would like to probably start out with the start. So at the beginning, we have kids, right? And we wanna we try to make them make scientists or STEM people out of them. And when does this happen? When do people choose to become engineers, mathematicians, scientists? When probably this goes to Olaf Zeiske. You have school kids. When do you say, when do they decide what their major will be, what they will study?
Shall I start, or?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Well, high school is quite late. I mean, the older students we have, we can reach them. We can reach their interest, and we know that we can steer it. It has to do with a special structure we use at the upper secondary school. We form a kind of profiles, we call them, that are clusters of different subjects, and the students, they can select this. So it's a kind of streaming effect on the one hand, but so if we cluster biology and physiology and arts, for instance, we catch those who are interested in biology, and by this we can trigger them, even they are 18 years old, and many of them they change to the technical university after their graduation. So we have this huge benefit that we are simply door to door to your university, and so cooperation is quite easy. And for our students, it's real life to have a university just beside the school. And but I think it's more worth to think about younger students in the lower secondary school. It's important to trigger the interest to STEM subjects, and even in the primary school. I think Gesine, she will tell us more about this. I think it's their philosophy to start quite early with very, very young kids, to awake the interest in nature and all this kind of things. We had a real problem a couple of years ago. Chemistry and physics, this two subjects, they were not elected by our older students, and so we were not able to fill the courses because they all switched to biology, for instance. So we had to react, and we did it in a very successful way, and that had to do with the teachers. I think the teachers, they play a incredibly important role in this setting. If you have teachers who burn, who really are enthusiastic and make a lot of experiments, and they can trigger the kids when they are 12, 15 years old, and they did in physics and in chemistry. And this year it's the first time after many years that we have a lot of chemistry courses in our high school, in the upper secondary school, and it shows that we can do it. So we have this power to steer it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. That's so you say it's important to have teachers that burn for the subject. It's important to have experiments, and it's important to start early. And probably this is exactly the point where I'd like to head over to Gesine and Liese. You're exactly doing this, right? You're trying to give younger students, so in elementary schools and following the opportunity to experiment. Could you elaborate a little bit on what KINDERFORSCHER does, or what you do?
Yeah, so we started 15 years ago and started in elementary school because in Germany there's a very good initiative called Haus der kleinen Forscher, the House of the Little Researchers, which was already very active in assisting kindergartens and preschools just to offer scientific educational topics. And so that was really well done. And then secondary school was teaching science, but in Germany, or especially in Hamburg, there was nothing in between. And the primary school teachers were not educated to be science teachers because there's not really science class in primary school. So I saw this big gap myself. I grew up in the United States. That's why my English is very American. And I just saw this very big hole where Germany is losing, or Hamburg is losing a lot of kids. And I decided I cannot change that by myself. I could only teach a limited amount of pupils every year. So I just realized that I have to teach the grammar school teachers how they could be teaching science to themselves and simultaneously to the children. They can learn together. And so that's why we developed and offer ever since then group size experiment boxes and teaching material for anyone wanting to offer STEM, no matter what their background is, to children starting at age about 8 when they can start to read, all the way up through high school to 18-year-olds. And this material is specifically made so that any type of school teacher, anyone offering an after-school program, if you want to offer something in the free time of children or youngsters, camp counselors can offer STEM with our boxes, also university personnel and company employees. So anyone who is willing, who is capable of working with the age group they want to work with, by us is enabled to be able to offer some STEM. So we usually by now have approximately 1,200 pupils per year, about 50 teachers, and about 15 companies in several month courses here in the metropolitan region around Hamburg, and offering these classes during school, after school, or in camps. And we really encounter, the way we try to enable these people is all of our boxes start with an everyday question. Like, I like to eat pizza. How do you make pizza dough? A lot of people try to cook their own pizza. So how can you develop that dough? If you want to have a thin, crispy dough, or if you want to have a thick, fluffy dough, how can you do that? Now, this is something that's going to be, that interests teachers as well. I mean, teachers are humans, they like to eat pizza. And so if I can take a topic like that and I have a box, what makes yeast dough rise? Then teachers say, oh, I want to learn this myself. I'm going to take it to my kids and I'm going to be learning this with the kids. And so we also still have other topics. For example, how can we examine the soil? A lot of us have potted plants or we have gardens. What type of soil do you have to put in your potted plant? How often do you then have to water it? What is soil? What does it consist of? Yeah, or why when I eat ketchup, why at first I turn my glass bottle around and no ketchup comes out, I pound on it and I have a whole plate full of ketchup. So all of these everyday observations that anyone makes, that's where we pick people up. That's how we excite, yeah. And then we have to empower. So while then with these boxes, you're excited about wanting to learn this, while doing the experiments, we have a didactic material to go with it, so that the teachers and students are learning why. So there we're empowering them. And since we use a lot of everyday materials, things that you can find in any household or any in school, that's how we try to ignite. Because if we teach teachers and students how to work with everyday material, you don't need to be rich. You don't need to live in a rich country. I mean, we're talking to the world here. You don't need to have expensive equipment. You can work with anything. You can learn how to do experimental series with yeast. Yeast is available anywhere in the world. I mean, we all eat bread. And so that's how we can really change a lot. And yeah, so we've built this up from 3rd grade all the way through 12th grade. And then what we've also then included for the older students, where we changed the program name from KINDERFORSCHER, which means child researcher, like our 15, 16, and 17-year-olds don't want to be children anymore. So that's why we changed the program name for them starting at grade 8 or 9 to NachwuchsCampus. And there we then also include companies so that we bring together these everyday questions. We teach them via the experiment science, and with the help of the companies, we teach them STEM professions. So if I like that yeast experiment, you know, maybe I want to become a biology lab technician, or maybe I want to go and work in a mechanic shop making machines to change dough, to work through dough so a lot of people can be fed. Or maybe I want to study biotechnology. And so there we also need companies, the university and companies, to show the kids what types of apprentices could I do? How can I become a mechanic? But also, how could I study mechanical engineering? And if I do this apprenticeship, or if I study this subject at college, what will my everyday work look like afterwards? And how can I improve the world and change the world by picking up a STEM career? And that's what we're specialized in.
Okay, it's very impressive. I'm not aware of such an initiative anywhere else in Germany or anywhere else in the world. I'm not sure. Is this really your idea, or did you come up with this yourself?
Yeah. It has a lot to do with my upbringing. I lived in the United States. I'm a 1st-generation German immigrant in the United States, and I grew up there from when I was 1-year-old till 18. And I was in Silicon Valley, California, during the years where when I moved to Silicon Valley was just agriculture. And when I moved away, it was what you know Silicon Valley to be at. Apple was founded, things were founded in your garage. And that's the whole thinking I grew up with. And I also grew up with the thinking that everyone can change the world. So I started KINDERFORSCHER in my own kitchen. It was running in my house the first year. I started with 1,500 euros of my own money. And then I decided either I can change the world with that or I can't. And yeah, then we won several prizes, I won several prizes, which really helped us build up what KINDERFORSCHER is today. And then of course the support, and this is what you're going to be hearing from me over and over again, working together with schools, with teachers, because if I by myself cannot change the world, but I can support teachers, I can support trainers working with children, I can support people so that they can change the world using the teaching materials that we produce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you also, KINDERFORSCHER has now an impressive online repository of videos, right? Where you can also, with the own materials, can do experiments.
We have YouTube videos. There's a YouTube channel, KINDERFORSCHER on the TUHH, and then we have a hands-on experiment website called Knifflix. KNIFFELIX. But if you go on our homepage, kinderforscher.de, then you will see Knifflix there. And there, for example, if you want to learn how to make your own yeast dough, how to make an experimental series, go on KINDERFORSCHER on Knifflix, and there you can participate and you can experience the STEM material from anywhere in the world.
Okay, yeah. So you say it's very important to excite children. I mean, children are excited on their own. If I think of my kids, they are excited about everything. It's great. And yeah, I think it's about saving this excitement through the years of school and keeping the curiosity, right? And until they, yeah.
It's teaching them, how can you think scientific? So they're excited. Yeah, they think it's really neat that the yeast dough rises. But how can I examine what parameters are important? Why does yeast dough need to be kept warm? Well, let's try it out. What happens? Like, what's warm? You know, how warm should it be? So let's let our dough rise at a not so warm place, at a warmer place, at a really hot place. So is more heat going to be better? Well, all of you know, once you bake yeast dough, the yeast doesn't work anymore. It's dead. And of course, you don't want your bread to rise in your cabinet. Yeah, you don't want to take your sandwich to work or to school in the mornings and have it be larger by the time lunchtime is around. Yeah, so it's all about like, how do I do this? And so what you really, the kids are excited. So teach them how to think scientifically on the topics they're excited about. And that's how you can ignite them to be our scientists, to our engineers, because they'll be capable of changing the world and they want to change the world, and then they'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And also one very important aspect you said, I think is working together for students and for teachers. So you say the target group is not solely the students, but also the teacher, because they decide what's on the menu in their schools, right? So they're the multipliers. The participants of the hackathon to keep in mind. If you design an app that's targeted at students, keep in mind also that the teacher's perspective, so that they need to be willing to give the students the possibility to use this app at school, or to make this available. So I think this is a very important point you were mentioning. Probably this. Yeah,
because the thing is, if you reach one student, you reach one student. If you reach one teacher, a teacher works together with 120, 150, 180 students per day. So reaching a teacher, empowering a teacher, makes it possible to just exponentially empower incredible amounts of people. Now, what's really great is not everyone has these fantastic teachers. Yeah. So what I really believe in, and that's what I do with KINDERFORSCHER at the same time, I believe in giving single interested people opportunity to participate in things. Yeah. But empowering people. So that's the ideal thing. So when you're making an app, when you're producing an app, and that's what Sebastian did. You know, he produced an app where he can reach a single person like you, Alex, you know, wanting to measure things. On the other hand, he reaches a teacher like Olaf, who uses this instrument in class, and then he can reach 180 kids with that, or per year. Yes. Looking over the years, he reaches a lot more. So
that happened 2 weeks ago. I think, Alexander, you was the first person who told me about Freeforks, or Firefox. Is it Firefox? Freeforks?
It's Freeforks, but we do not really mind if people call it Firefox. It's for physical phone experiments. That's why it's Freeforks, but okay, everybody says Firefox because it just looks like it.
Yeah, okay. So I called it Firefox, and yes, and after I left Alex 2 weeks ago, I put it on my smartphone and was playing with different factors there, and then I found this light sensor measuring tool, and we were just running a project in the wood nearby the school, and we were looking to the moss layer and the herb layer, and we were asking ourselves, how much light does the vegetation down close to the ground really needs? Where is the light compensation point for the vegetation there? So it was incredible, because we had Firefox now, and we were able to measure the light intensity. And so also the students, they immediately downloaded Firefox, and and it was quite nice to see that we had different smartphones there, but the samples were quite the same. The values we sampled were quite similar. So it did a really good job to measure there. So imagine 24, 25 students were running with Firefox and on the smartphones through the wood and were measuring light intensity. That was fantastic, yes. And that is what Gesine said, that I was the multiplier.
Yeah.
Multiplier.
Multiplier.
Yeah, multiplier. I was a multiplier who, yeah. And
actually,
now everybody
you can have even you can have even more multiplication if you reach those who teach the teachers. So if you go to teachers education, then of course you reach a bunch of teachers who then again reach the students. But that takes more time to implement, and it's more long-term perspective, of course.
Yes, I was very surprised. I asked my physics colleagues at the school, and all of them knew Firefox. So
okay, great.
Oh, really?
It seems to be already quite known. Yes.
Yeah. We're very happy to have Sebastian with us, even though they just won a prize yesterday, right? It was announced yesterday. I saw that you were granted another $1 million of euros in funding for continuing your work.
Unfortunately not. It was 1 million for 10 projects, and Freeforks is one of them. And we did not actually get exactly a tenth of it, but a little bit less. So it was not that much about the funding, but this is from the German Stifterverband. That's hard to explain outside of Germany. And they, it's more a reputation thing, I would say. It's we were announced to be one of the top 10 innovative projects in Germany. So I think it's not that much about the money because we have to share it with the other 10 projects, but it was quite an honor. Yeah.
It's an honor for us to have you. Yeah, and we see it's useful, right? I'm very happy, Olaf, that to hear about this story. I think, yeah.
That's real life.
Yeah, and probably Sebastian, when you were thinking about implementing Freeforks, you did not have in mind measuring the vegetation. Or the light intensity or vegetation needs, right? But these things just evolve, and that's the nice thing about apps, right? They're so scalable and probably, yeah. So IT is probably something at the core of this whole hackathon here, where we invite people to think in this direction, right? What else is there out? What can help us? There's so much possibilities now with technology. How can we use this in a way that helps STEM? And yeah, we would love to inspire you here today a little bit and to help you decide for joining this hackathon this weekend and then participate and yeah, maybe you have an idea now or already had it and you want to implement it and yeah, let's see what comes out. There's another topic I would like to touch and that's the gender balance in STEM. In total studies last year in Germany, we had 50% female students. For the first time in German history, we had 50% of student beginners female and 50% male. This is very good notice. I think it was rising for years now, and now we're finally balanced. But in STEM, it's not really the case. In STEM, we have 1/3 female students only. And I was wondering, why is this the case? Maybe Julia Freudenberg, do you have an idea why this could be the case? Why are girls not as attracted to STEM as boys?
Well, actually, I just feel comfortable to talk about IT or about coding, which is just, well, in German you would say the I and the mint part. Yeah. Well, if you see the way of bringing up kids here in Germany, you have a lot of hard stereotypes like boys do tech and girls do languages or whatever thing, and just repeating the stereotypes over and over again makes it even harder to crush it. And just, you know, Germans are more about to complain about things instead of changing them directly. And just, you know, seeing the bright part of the story and just make them try. Just do not compare boys and girls, but just, well, well, let them try their hands on coding once, and you can change the world as well. And like if you check for girls' schools, well, we hardly have any in Hamburg. I guess there's no one actually, but we have about 60 in Bavaria. And if you have girls' schools and have math classes, you wouldn't guess there are girls who are good at math and there are girls who are not good at math. Congratulations. And well, this is life. And if we can change the attitude toward things just by trying, we can change the run of this topic. Because this is why, and I guess this is a question we also founded Girls Hacker School. In Hacker School, normally we just tend to build bridges between companies and their corporate volunteering and the interest of kids in coding. Because I believe that we will never ever have enough teachers in school who teach IT, because there's no, I don't say it, no real reason to go to school for someone who's good in coding. At least in North Rhine-Westphalia, we have 25% of the teachers, or at least it's just 25% taken of the positions for IT teachers. And so this means we have to build bridges and inspire kids through the engagement of companies. And once we funded the Girls Hacker School, we noticed that as well girls and their moms they just do the same. They just need a safe space. We teach exactly the same stuff, sometimes a bit more CSR commitment in a sense, like sustainability or whatever issues. But I guess if we want to have more girls in STEM, we just need to inspire them very early before they get the first period and notice they have to be nerds to find this topic interesting.
And you're at the Hacker School, you mentioned this Girls Hacker School. Could you briefly explain to us what the Hacker School is and what the Girls Hacker School is specifically?
Well, Hacker School as such is just the building bridges between companies and kids. Like take 2 IT guys or girls who do this for a living and 10 kids and let them do cool stuff over the weekend or in the morning in schools. We just started to have Hacker School at your school as a special program at Hacker School. And for us, the idea is that the volunteers we have, they love what they do. They are in this job for a reason. And just if you see that adults are excited about what they do, it's so easy to inspire kids. Because if you love what you do, everyone else will love it too, who is working with you. And so this idea for the Girls Hacker School just raised in my head when I heard a mom saying to her daughter, like, oh dear, mommy wasn't good in math as well, so don't worry. And I was so mad at that moment because this is so stupid. This doesn't have to help the girl at all, but just fixes the stereotypes again. And so we said, no, you will come for coding, and we just do it, the girls among each other, and they had so much fun. And this is why we funded Girls Hacker School afterwards. So it's 11 till 99 years. Normal Hacker School is 11 till 18. But just to get the moms that they do not destroy more than they need to, we just let them code together and have a good weekend.
Very, very impressive. And you're also super successful, right? During Corona, you kind of switched your portfolio towards online courses, or you added them, and that's really seeing a lot of attraction to people, right? And also you're very, I saw you on different in YouTube. You're very popular and in different settings. So it really is for in this zeitgeist. So there's a lot of focus on IT right now and education. Your project kind of marries these two things and really tries to change for better. I was really impressed with how successful this project was.
Well, Alex, popular and successful is a big one. I guess it depends always on the point of view. But yes, we're getting a lot of attention in media, and there are people who guess that I do not have any other items of clothing except this wonderful Hacker School shirt, which is partly true. I have another pullover. What we like to do is just change the question towards what does it take? And before Corona, we have been active in 40 cities throughout Germany, And then we had 1 week where I was about to close everything because I was not under the impression we can make it. But then once I got my mindset back, we swapped within 5 days to just online, because I guess, well, we should probably be prepared that Corona is not the last virus we will have. And I guess if we allow a virus to decide whether our kids are going to be educated towards the future or not, then we are probably not in the driver's seat. And so just to check what we can do and what were the important points to take as well online, like having 2 IT guys or girls and 10 kids, having it for 2 days. So in the night in between, the brain of the kids can just sort everything, and the brain is gorgeous. And so you train them at the first day to the level of 5, and the next day they start at the level of 10. And it's just amazing to see then the sparkling eyes afterwards. And so as well, during Corona pandemic, we decided to go to schools. I was strongly against it for years, but I said, well, if you want to reach socially disadvantaged kids, we have to go to school. It's the only way we can get them. And so just seeing that kids whose daddy is going to receive Hartz IV or social aid, and they consider this at their vocational future as well, they just start coding and you see, no, it's not what they have to do necessarily. They can change their own way. And this is a lot of work. I am so tired after this year. I was guessing that last year was the worst ever, but I understood this year is even more challenging. But it's really cool to see that well, this is a footprint you can leave behind. And even it's the Hacker School t-shirt, I'm willing to go to our federal president once more in exactly this t-shirt if it gives us the advertising or the being well known we need.
Yeah, this is yeah, thanks for this nice statement. So yeah, and yeah, I would love to see then your reception at the president in your t-shirt. That I'm glad you wear it also today.
Alex, I have been there at the International Women's Day on 8th March, and then we got to the Tagesschau and we got about nearly 50 calls. How can one dare to go in this t-shirt to Steinmeier? But to be honest, he doesn't know that I have other items of clothing, and so I didn't want to shock him. So it's all good. And probably we can find a way, like going to school as well with students, to show the kids that as well young people pick STEM as a career might as well be a cool cooperation area. So just let's do it together.
Yeah, oh, great. let's do that. Yeah. One last point to this gender thing. Do you think it needs different ways to excite, enable, and ignite boys versus girls? You mentioned stereotypes that. Mom mentioning I was not good at maths too, and stuff. But do your courses that you specifically tailor to girls have different aspects than those that you don't tailor to girls specifically? And
it's just one part mainly. Basically, there's not a big difference, or it's two parts. And what helps with girls are role models. Just to see that someone already took this path to wherever to, like STEM, it helps a lot to imagine that you can do it yourself as a girl. And the second part is females, no matter what age, tend to need a reason why. See, I married a wonderful IT guy 20 years ago, and he is the love of my life and my inspiration for Hacker School. But we have a certain difference, like him getting a new IT gadget, like, wow, cool, I play me. What's it for? So do I have anything out of it? Could I use it for anything? No. So enjoy your gadget, but I'd be doing something else. And if we have this, especially social engagement, like or sustainability or whatever helps, if we can add this content-wise to the hackathon, whatever we do, it helps a lot for girls to find their reason why to, as Gesine said, change the world. And this helps a lot. Just from the level of difficulty or whatever, there's absolutely no difference, more the reason why, which really helps with girls.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very interesting. Thank you. I would like to probably switch gears now and look a little bit at life in university. So once we have people that come to our technical universities and study STEM, we see a lot of them also quitting their studies after a while. So this is a phenomenon that has been pretty consistent over the years, and we have about 50% of students that stop studying STEM after one semester or 1 year, and this is a lot. And Andrea, Brose, do you know why do so many students quit their STEM studies?
Yeah, I guess I should say I know, not by having really found out myself, but indeed there's research done on that. And in fact, one research was very actually fruitful that was done at our university, but also included other universities, in which they actually did try to find out why do they stop. And they roughly broke it down into 5 actually categories of people. Why did they leave? It's very difficult to get these people because they just leave and they don't call us back, so to speak, right? They're not required to tell us why they leave. So it was a long study over many, many years. And so roughly speaking, there's one type of students that are coming to the university. You know, we all assume, let's say 95% are actually really excited and they chose something they want to study. So for them, it's probably also disappointment to stop. So why did they quit studies? So one of the types that they observed is the type that is technologically centered. So they're very, you know, they do like to play, whether boy or girl, whether they see a reason or not for it. But then they're just simply overwhelmed by the amount of material that they're encountering, by the level of abstraction. So put short a little bit, perhaps the academics overwhelmed them. For whatever reason, that's not asked for now. But that makes them frustrated and not being able to keep up. They lose their study groups and they're out of the system very, very soon. And that's actually the largest group. There was about 1/3 of those that were interviewed where we were categorized for being technologically centered, yet academically possibly not strong enough. And then we have kind of exactly the counterpoint, those students that are academically very strong. In fact, they even pass the exams, even the exams where mechanics 1 in our school, sometimes, yeah, 60 to 80% in their first try don't pass. So they may even pass it, they even get a good grade. Yet, why do they quit studies? This was actually the second largest group of about 1/4 of the students. And they just didn't find any relevance in the courses they had to take in the beginning. They didn't find it professionally relevant for them because they had an idea, I want to become a chemical engineer or a civil engineer, but instead they had to take courses that didn't seem to relate what they have chosen as their field of study. And then also the contents were disconnected. This is actually a point we're working now on at UHH already successfully in one field and another field to make these subjects that are needed in STEM education in the beginning also more connected and more professionally relevant. And then there are a couple other smaller groups where they finish studies. It ranges from students having just a very difficult time with the construct university. They often come from backgrounds where they're the first academically thriving people in their family. And they just have a very difficult time with the construct of university, the independence you need to bring and deal with. They're the smaller groups. Nevertheless, they could possibly be still kept, some of them that need just more support in how to find study groups and how to work in a group and etc. Now that said, it also shows there's not a one quick fixed time solution because it's different. People need to be addressed differently, and that calls ever more so for more flexible learning paths, in particular in the beginning of the studies, which is what many universities try to offer by now. For example, through some kind of year 0 of studies where people actually get an orientation. Is this the right place for me? Do I perhaps need more of that element or that element?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you say there's multiple reasons why students quit after a semester or 2. They're either overwhelmed by the academic or by the level of abstraction that's required, or by math or mechanics or whatever, or they don't find it relevant. So modern didactics is kind of working on these things, no? Trying to make, you said you're trying to connect studies, so make people, tell people that mechanics or maths is important for this and that, and have probably questions or problems in math that are related to the subjects. But What else is there? Kind of what's the hot topics in didactics right now? So where is the field moving? What are the innovations that are being explored here?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it also picks up on many of the topics that any of the previous speakers said, anywhere from motivation, relevance, asking the why question, being really motivated. So one of the big trends, in fact, and in Europe in particular, due to a very big call the European Union called out, is the concept of challenge-based learning. I kind of don't like these, words that are thrown around and, everybody comes up with new didactics, but the newest one is challenge-based, next kid on the corner, challenge-based learning. So what is challenge-based learning? Well, kind of sadly, there's no common understanding of what challenge-based learning really is. It is implemented and used in various facets, but it does have some basic ideas, basic structures. It is promoted, in fact, as a means of trying to align better, because that alignment is not really happening yet. On the one hand, the acquisition of disciplinary knowledge, and that with the development of transversal competencies, and both of which are needed in the work world, but shall be and should be developed also as part of the learning process, simply because it helps to learn. And it addresses also the issue of motivation, because here you actually do put the learner much more in the driver's seat than in traditional education, by which I mean you let, to some degree, the student choose what exactly kind of smaller problem they want to work on, given that there's some big topic they need to develop. And so that drives the motivation up, of course, because I want to actually find out that, kind of like Gesine said with the KINDERFORSCHER, they're just excited because they know, yeah, my ketchup doesn't come out of the bottle. And so just picking up that motivation, that still works. And Oliver said it also, Olaf, Oliver or Olaf, Olaf, in high school, igniting, sparking the interest in the students, that's really relevant. And so what it also has in common is coming back to what you said in the beginning, Alex, namely that we do need to face the challenges of the world today. So what is common in all of the challenge-based learning implementations is the authenticity of the problem, that it's socio-technological typically, and societal problems. They are often tied to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And so there are really things that people are wondering about. And of course, climate change is one of them, right? How do I make a climate neutral campus, for example, that you could really ignite people there?
Okay, yeah, very interesting. Thank you. And would you say, which role could digital tools play in making STEM education more exciting? So we heard about Freeforks, and we will hear about it in a second. And we heard about the hacker schools, or the competency in coding. What would you say? What role could such digital tools play in making STEM more exciting?
Yeah, that's exactly more exciting. So I think I see two major aspects. It's actually three in total, but two major aspects. I mean, first of all, when we implement any kind of digital tool, whether it be an app or anything else, we better make sure that we are not worsening the quality of education, meaning that the learning outcome ends up decreasing. So that's the bare minimum. I think we can all easily agree on that. But of course, ideally, you utilize technology in order to make the education even better. And there are many, many formats developing. Actually, it dates back to even tens of years ago already. I have also the background from the United States, where I was first encountering technological aspects in education beyond a PowerPoint slide, so to speak. But secondly, we also owe the generation, or the learners to be exposed to the technology. May it be the technology that immediately enhances the learning process, or simply the technology that is actually also the one that they end up using later in the workforce. And so having never been exposed to that really puts these graduates at a disadvantage when it comes to having them in the workplace. So anywhere from igniting them, exciting them, putting the relevance in connection with the app, actually picking up much of our generation, I would say, in that they have their handy in their hand, so when they are in the elevator, they take the Firefox and say, hey, how high is actually my building? I'm living on the 4th floor. I have no idea how high my building is. And you can measure it. And that way, again, we really excite students to actually pick up on these topics and trying to understand them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you say digital tools are important, but they shouldn't be misused. They shouldn't replace good teaching. So just showing them a YouTube video doesn't make for good teaching. So that's also an important thing. So that also, to keep in mind, when probably in the hackathon that a digital tool probably can help, but it's not going to replace good teaching. But yeah, probably I'm not sure. This is open to debates, and maybe we can discuss this with the audience afterwards. Yeah, thank you, Andrea, for this. Now I'd like to come to the Freeforks. We were talking about this quite a bit already, but now I would like to hear from you, Sebastian. Maybe you could share with you. So I can briefly introduce. Freeforks turns your smartphone into a physics lab, and you won numerous prizes, including I just read here a little bit: the Ars Legendi Faculty Award 2020 at the Stifterverband in the German Physical Society, and the Wilhelm Westphal Teaching Award, and the Archimedes Award, Verband zur Förderung des MINT, which is promoting STEM teaching. So it's a very successful app that's being downloaded a couple of million times already, if I'm correct. Could you please tell us what you can do with this app?
How much time do you have? No, but so because by now there are so many functions to this app, but the basic idea is that we use the sensors in the smartphone as a mobile lab. So the idea is that each of our smartphones has a whole list of sensors, like an accelerometer is in every single smartphone. There's a gyroscope in most smartphones, there's a magnetometer, as a compass, also present in most phones. Of course, microphones and everyone. The light sensor, by the way, is also in most phones, but it's not accessible on iPhones simply because there's no interface to read it. But they have it to control the brightness of the display. But it also depends on your phone which sensors are available. And Freeforks gives access to those sensors. And so I hope this works because I didn't try it before, but yeah, it works great. Okay, so I've got the live image from my phone here. So this is what Freeforks looks like, and you see this list of sensors here in the. So you can simply open the accelerometer and read the data, plot something. So I'm shaking it a little bit and zoom in and check out the values, make some measurements. So that's all nice, but what Freeforks also does is it offers some configurations so that you can start with the experimentation right away without dealing with all the technical details. So, for example, we just heard about the elevator experiment. So we've got an entry elevator, and Freeforks uses then the barometer on your phone. Unfortunately, that's one of the more rare sensors. It's in about half the phones, I would say. To measure the change in altitude. So how high did you travel in the elevator? So of course, nothing's happening here except for noise while I'm sitting here. At the velocity of the elevator and also acceleration. And so students can just pick this entry and start measuring, while more advanced users can create their own configuration. So if you ever used Freeforks, you'll notice a bunch of stuff in here that you don't have in your app. So other users can simply create their own configuration and share it with the QR code. And with this, we also have got very extensive interfaces. So we have a network interface. So multiple users can share their measurements into one big measurement. We've got a Bluetooth interface with which we, for example, created CO2 monitors with a few German schools as a pilot project. So it then looked like this. So we created a PCB, some electronics, and actually the students, young students down to 6th grade, built their CO2 monitors, actually because of the pandemic, so they can have a guide on when to exchange the air in the room. But the great idea is that after the pandemic, this one can connect to Freeforks via Bluetooth with a simple Arduino library that we offer. And then they can plot the CO2 measurement in Freeforks and make more experiments that are relevant to STEM classes. Like in biology, they can do stuff about photosynthesis synthesis, or it's even hard to pronounce it in German, right? So yeah, but you get the idea. There are some chemical experiments we can do with these external sensors. And so beyond this basic idea that every student already has a little lab in his or her pocket to explore the world, we also extend on that so that you can easily connect it to cheap and simple projects like using Arduino. And so that's a very quick overview of all the things that we can do. But I think the basic idea is everyone can just start without any upfront cost because they have a smartphone, they install the app, and they've got some sensors to start with.
And it's even you work without advertisements, right? It's free of advertisements, so you don't collect data from people and you don't track. So it's really based on I think how is it funded? So this is like
that's a difficult question, yeah. But so I think the easy answer is we are a university, we are the good guys, and yes, you're right. There's no advertisement. We do not charge anyone for this. We do not collect any data. It's actually open source, so everyone can participate. Although a little problem with the source code is that it did not start out as with a plan to become such a huge project. So especially older parts are not structured that easily that everyone can quickly look at it and understand how this works. So if anybody wants to rework it, it's open source, so you can help us there. Yeah, the funding is so base funding is mostly just my position at the university. I'm from a solid state physics department actually, but of course Freeforks is not that much about solid state physics. And the head of our department, Professor Stampfer, actually came up with the idea to create this app, or actually his brother came up with the idea, who's doing didactics in Innsbruck, but that's way too much background. So he came up with this idea to create an app like this simply for all students in one lecture. And I happened to have some experience with Android development at that point and wanted to impress the boss. So I created a little app that you can dangle from a string, and then it tells you how long the string is because of the movement. And then the idea was born to create this app just for all students, and it became bigger and bigger and bigger. At some point we released it, and then it went through the roof, and now it's my main job. And I would say I'm in physics didactics now instead of solid state physics. But still my position is funded by the solid state department because the head of our department is also really excited about this app and loves this app. And yes, at this point, it's mostly his decision. But the problem is being funded like this doesn't scale very, very well because we have got more than 2 million installations by now, actually, which doesn't all mean active users. This, of course, also counts people who install it once and then do not use it again. But as the numbers go up, you need more personnel just to deal with the amount of support requests because we really want to help the people who struggle with some technical problems. We also need this to learn which things to fix in the app. And so by now our team has grown a little bit. Some in our team are simply students who are working on their master thesis or their PhD. There are actually 2 professors, the head of our department and Professor Heidrun Heinke, who is about physics didactics. But we still need someone who does teacher trainings and workshops and does the communication. And this is mostly funded through research projects, or actually this guy that I just mentioned is funded by the Hans-Hermann Voss Foundation. So it's funded by a foundation. But it's an ongoing question because on one hand, you've got those who say you got 2 million installations, there has to be a way to get some financiation back. On the other hand, I'm the guy who says, wait, but we cannot charge for it because it should be motivating to use it for education. So even a few cents is off-putting there. We cannot collect data. We cannot do all this stuff. And so I'm more striving to foundations and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a bit of an ongoing struggle. So the base funding for Freeforks is safe. So anyone who's thinking about long-term usage, I will stay at the university and my position is safe, but everything beyond this is something that we try to figure out regularly. And yeah, so it's not such an easy question.
Sebastian, we should really think about a cooperation between Hacker School and your project just to have a really really good approach to more schools or whatever usage. We should really.
Yeah, I thought so as well when I heard about this, because I think one of the easiest and fastest connection would be through our Arduino library, I would think, just from the idea there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to hear that new connections and probably new projects spark from this encounter today. And I hope that also, yeah, more ideas can be sparked in our audience, that hopefully a lot of you will participate in the hackathon this weekend, where you're about to innovate and to create, design a digital tool that helps STEM education, kind of what Sebastian already did, and Julia in a sense also doing, and what Gesine with her project is doing, and yeah, Olaf is using is cool. So Sebastian, I would like to ask you probably one final question. I think we are already well progressed in time, but I think it's valuable to our audience now. So you did all of this. You implemented an app, so you know what it takes and what the complexity of each step is. So what would you say was the biggest challenge, or what are the biggest challenges when turning an idea into an app that then really works?
Ooh, that's I can answer this very specifically for Freeforks, but it's hard to generalize because this of course depends on each project. So for Freeforks, one problem was that it's, at least at the time we created Freeforks, and I think it would still be true today, but I didn't research it again. It was impossible to implement Freeforks in a platform-independent way. So there are frameworks to implement an app such that it works on Android and iOS, and our goal still today is to reach as many users as possible without having them to buy a new phone, because the idea is we want to support the stuff that's already there, especially in developing countries where they're still using older phones. So all this should work. But Freeforks works best if we have got a really low level access to the sensors. So we're not directly talking to the sensors. We still have to go through the APIs of the manufacturers. But if we look at some framework that does this platform independently, usually we lose some functionality. And the same is true for the way we create the graphs that show the data. I mean, just the example of the accelerometer right now that I showed was about 400 values per second, then on 3 axes, so for 3 graphs. So after 30 seconds, you've got about 10,000 data points. And the only way we can have this smooth zooming in is to create these graphs with OpenGL. And so with graphics acceleration. And back when we created this, there was no way to do this across multiple platforms. So we have to develop Freeforks twice. We do everything for Android and everything for iOS again. And that's not motivating. So you've got a new thing on your to-do list, you start implementing it, and once you're done, you think, okay, that's great, and then yeah, you turn over to the other system, and then I have to do everything again now for iOS. So I would really recommend to plan ahead in this regard, which framework or which things can be reused that are already out there. If you plan to go with a project like this, we could not do this because there was nothing that offered all these functions. But it's something, if you can avoid having to implement everything multiple times, it's certainly worth it. Although you have to be careful that you could get dependent on a certain framework and might become difficult to move away. I mean, that's the downside of this. But yeah, thinking ahead of where you're going. I mean, I mentioned also that that I'm not proud and happy about the old code when we were just developing this thing for our own lecture, and it's a little bit hard for a community to participate in this part. Of course, if you are able to plan ahead, then of course a good structure of the app in the beginning saves a lot of time later and makes it easier for others to join in. So okay. It's a textbook recommendation a little bit. It's something everyone talks about, but yeah, that's the problem I have to face every day now, and so that's something to keep in mind at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you very much for this advice. I probably have to remind the potential participants of the hackathon that within these 3 days, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which we'll be using on designing this prototype and on thinking how this app could have functionalities. You don't have to deal with these things. Once you won this hackathon and you want to continue to implement your idea and to make really a reality out of this and make it fly, then the organizers of this hackathon, we will provide you with guidance and professional coaches and technical assistance. So even if you're not an IT freak and you didn't understand everything what Sebastian was saying right now, it shouldn't keep you from participating. So I think, these design questions are very important, but I think, it's so the first step, we don't have to, or our students don't have to deal with them, I would say. So this is just but thank you very much for the second step advice. So I guess this is very important. All right, then I think thank you very much to all of you for this fantastic discussion. I think we had a very rich discussion from the beginning on what children need to be excited in school, what makes them decide for a STEM career. Then we heard about the KINDERFORSCHER and the NachwuchsCampus from Gesine, Liese. So they really go into schools and try to excite people and try to make them curious and challenge. And then we heard about the gender balance and why girls are not as try to find answers to the question why are girls not as attracted to STEM studies right now as they could, as boys are. And Julia told us about her initiative of the hacker school and the girls hacker school. They're trying to bring IT to all students, and now they're targeting also schools and have an extensive online offer. And then Andrea told us what's happening at university and what the cutting edge modern didactics tend to. So we have heard about challenge-based learning. So challenges, kind of what makes my pizza dough grow, or how can we make our campus carbon neutral, and that helps people or students be motivated for what they do, and potentially that also helps keeping them bound to the studies they do. So we don't want them to quit because they don't see sense in what they're doing. I think those fraction that you were mentioning there, I was especially, so we shouldn't lose good people because they think it doesn't make any sense what they're studying. Well, these are the worst people to lose. I guess this is really something we should address. And then, we heard about this fantastic tool that Sebastian Stacks and his colleagues at RWTH Aachen are implementing, or were implementing. That's already being heavily used at schools, and I'm using it myself, and I hope some of you will install it as well. And we also learned that there might be some good overlap between members of this panel now, hopefully some new projects arise from this. And with this, I would like to thank the panelists once again. I think we can conclude this first session, so that the closed round, and open up for questions from the audience. And I'm really excited to hear if there are questions and for our panelists here.
We don't have questions yet. Maybe the audience is feeling now a little bit lazy today. But please, if you have any question to the speakers, let's do it now. Or Alexander, I don't know if you have any topic more to open a discussion. We have like 15 minutes more to talk. Or any of the speakers wants to tell us anything more?
I'm sure there will be some questions if we now ask the audience to come up with questions. No, I think I would have a lot of questions, but I would really love to give the audience also a chance to follow up on some points that were, maybe we can, but while people start typing, it also takes some time. Maybe I can remind people of the hackathon and of the goals and the criteria. And so the hackathon will take place Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a digital hackathon, and the goal of this is to form teams of at least 6 people, and you can also join as a single person. You will be assigned to a team, so don't worry if you're not in 6 teams, in 6 people already. And it's aimed at creating a digital tool that motivates young students in STEM education. And kind of what we talked about this hour, and the criteria of the evaluation. So there's attractive price of 5,000 euros in total for the first 3 winning teams. And the criteria are resolution of the challenge, so the quality, the usability of your idea, the creativity and the design of the proposed tool, teamwork, also how well you worked as a team, and innovation and originality. So this is really what you should be focusing on, and you should be excited about what you're doing, and then I'm sure this criteria will then be fulfilled. But that's what you should be aiming at, and you can still sign up for the hackathon, right, Diego? It's still open.
Yes, still open, and you did it so well that now we have 1 question. So yeah, your summary was perfect to make some time for the people. Did you see it?
More than a question. I want to thank for the space, so many topics and ideas to share in my school. Oh, great. That's thank you very much, Maria Gabriela Brito. I cannot see the whole name. Thank you very much for this nice comment.
Yeah.
Arroyo, now I saw it.
And we have one from Andreas Liese, which I think that's for Sebastian. It's, what is your experience with Firefox using in a class situation where there are totally different versions of smartphones that are available? I don't know if you have any suggestion.
I have to say, this question would better be addressed to a teacher who actually tried it, because I mostly developed this. So I mostly developed the app and do not apply it myself with the students. But of course, I get feedback from the teachers. It really depends on the sensor and the stuff that you want to do with the app. One aspect that we look after is that we try to make sure that the app is similar as possible on both big platforms, so Android and iOS. As I mentioned, we have to develop both independently, but we still try to make sure to, while staying in the design language of each platform, to keep it similar and to what's a good word for this, to give an interface that then translates into the same experience and to the same way the sensors behave on each platform. But indeed, depending on the sensor, you have quite a few differences. I was quite surprised to hear earlier that light sensors gave such a consistent reading, because that's actually one of the sensors where we're sometimes a bit worried about, because we're very dependent on how well the manufacturer calibrates the sensor. Which I would not expect them all to do that thoroughly, because actually the sensor already gives to us the illuminance in lux, so the physical unit for how strong light shines onto a given surface. But for almost every application of the light sensor, it's only about dimming the display. So they do not really have to care that much about a good calibration. On the other hand, an accelerometer is available on every single smartphone. It's used in pretty much every game to steer cars by turning the phone and stuff like that. So you can expect quite consistent and good results from this sensor. And what we advise to teachers is to ask the students which sensor is available, because especially the barometer is one that tends to be only available in the more expensive phones, and you have to be careful not to put students at a disadvantage who cannot afford or do not want to afford an expensive phone. So you can check if enough students have that sensor available, that you can form groups that they can work together, for example. While on other sensors, you will learn from asking the students that they say, okay, we all have the accelerometer, no problem. And the microphone always is no problem at all. And usually once the sensor is available, most experiments work the same on all phones. There are some minor differences in the actual data rate of the sensors, but unless you're doing some very specific experiments where this plays a role, in most cases, it's not that much of a problem anymore. That was quite a long answer, is it, for a short question?
Yeah, maybe what was your experience, Olaf? Did you have any trouble with the students using the different devices?
No, we did just what Sebastian said. We formed groups. So we counted how many smartphones have this sensor, and then we formed groups. So every group had at least one smartphone which was able to measure the light intensity. And by this, all students were able to participate in the project. Yeah. And we found that the iPhone is not able to measure the light intensity, but we had enough Androids, and so yes, wasn't any problem. There's one thing which is quite interesting. I think I have to go back to the late 1990s. There was a computer scientist at the University of Maryland, Ben Schneiderman. And I think he was one of the first persons who thought about how does a working process in teaching or in learning processes, how is there any typical row or steps of learning? And he described 4 steps. And the first step is collecting data, gathering information. The second step is relating these things. So you get into a cognition process and start to think about what is more relevant information, what is less relevant, and you start to sort your data, looking for pattern, orders, correlations, this kind of thing. So he called it relating. And the third step he called creating, or to create something. So if you did all this, then you start to figure out certain ideas, and you perhaps a small hypothesis, and you try to elaborate results. That's this creative thing you do, and after that, the last phase, or the last step, is the step of dissemination, to share the ideas, to share the results. To create a presentation, a poster talk, whatever. And I love this 4 steps because it's so easy, and it's a very good didactical board to plan my lessons in this kind of sequences. And if somebody develops an application, you should think about where in this row, where does the app catalyzes the learning process. All these apps are catalyzers, and that's quite interesting. Like Freeforks is very good for hunting for data, and it's exciting to hunt for data. So that's what the students love to do, just gathering all this information. So you need interfaces to data that are public, for instance, in your app. But Freeforks makes more. Freeforks, I can export diagrams. I can create patterns within these data. So I'm also in the step 2, relating the data, and I'm also with Freeforks. I'm also in the step 3, creating some results. So, and I'm also with Freeforks. I'm also in step 4 by disseminating my results and sharing the data in groups, for instance. So I think it's quite important to think, where does an app catalyzes within the learning process? And I think within the hackathon project, if there's somebody designing an app, he should carefully prove what does the app, where does the app unfold its power? Yes.
Yeah, that's a great advice. Thank you, Olaf. And talking about the data, an anonymous spectator is asking, I hope he's not a hacker, but he is asking, or she is asking, that if it's possible to extract data from Firefox, like an API or something like this.
Yeah, I have to say I'm really happy about this question. It's almost as if I hired someone, because that's something I really love to show. I've already seen it. I will try if I can show something. No, don't worry, I'm not planning on giving an actual talk, but no, that's the wrong screen. Hi, that's an infinite something. Sorry. I didn't test this before, but then I think it should be, no, also another screen. Another screen. Okay, then it's the last screen I try. What's the order of these screens? Well, okay, so this screen it is. So that's just so I have to, it's a few images to show. It's actually part of a talk I gave at the Chaos Communication Congress. So if you're interested, you might want to search for this. But in detail, but it's a quick overview. One of the basic things for Freeforks is that we have this file format at the back of Freeforks. So forget the left part of this screen probably, but the right one you see is an extract from our documentation of the file format. You can find it at freeforks.org/wiki, or just go to freeforks.org where you find the wiki somewhere in the menu. And with this file format, you can create your own experiments or your own configurations for Freeforks. So let's make this full screen, or let's see. That's too spontaneous what I'm doing here, I see, because it's cut off. Let me correct this.
That's fine, we're spontaneous. There's no other questions, I think, so take your time. So.
Okay,
No.
yeah, but I think the point is not that I'm giving a whole talk here, right? But so the idea is that you create this configuration, which is an XML format. And then in Freeforks, now I open the live view from my phone again, you can go to this plus and scan this QR code. And in this example, that's not yet for data collection, but this example is a very nerdy example because it's a very nerdy event for which I did this, where we have a Turing machine running in Freeforks counting upwards binary. So if you don't understand what this is, doesn't really matter. It's a very geeky way to demonstrate that with this file format, you can do pretty much everything. And the idea is you can, oh, sorry, I already switched my phone back to German, but I hope you can still follow. You can say that you want to add it to the main menu. And if you scroll down, I don't know what the category was. Here, there you find this Turing machine thing that I just got from the QR code. And this way you can add configurations to this main menu. And with these, you can do a bunch of, so there are actually, I would say, 3 ways to collect data from the phone. The first one would be via network. Actually, this is an example I want to add later, which might be a good starting point. But you can have a QR code that sends the data from the phone from everyone who scans the QR code to a server, like this example where we did an experiment with the entire. Oh, sorry, I still got the phone in front of the screen. We did an experiment with the entire lecture hall. So every student there had their phone on a spring that we distributed earlier, and we were collecting the data on the main screen to determine the spring constant. Another example is this one where we did an international experiment where we asked our users to orient the phone to the sun throughout the day. And because of the orientation of the phone and the GPS location, we could then determine the position of the sun. And since we did this during the winter solstice, so the shortest day of the year, the position of the sun matches the axial tilt of Earth. So with a bunch of contributions across the globe, we could determine the orientation of Earth, which we did through this, with a specific XML file, a QR code that we shared with the users. And within this XML file, we could define how to transmit data to a server. So just so you know where to find info about this. So this can be found in our wiki down here on network connections. But for this example, so that's a rather demanding way to send the data. You should then start with the Freeforks file format to understand how these XML files work. Another option would be Bluetooth. So yeah, this is a commercial device that we read out. This is a demonstrator for our solid state physics stuff. That's actually graphene Hall sensor in there. But the easiest way to start with the Bluetooth interface is our Arduino library, which only requires, so it's actually in the official no, it's not in these older slides. The official Arduino library repository. So if you have got the Arduino IDE open, you're using a microcontroller, and you want to get data from Freeforks onto the microcontroller, have a look at the libraries in the Arduino IDE, search for Freeforks, and if you install it, there are examples on how to do this. Or simply visit freeforks.org/Arduino to find the link to our JIT repository, and then have a look at the examples to find a version where you can get data from the smartphone onto your Arduino, if this is the direction you want to go. And the third option, which does not involve the XML stuff, but so which I skipped over here at the beginning, which is the quickest way to just play with the data, would be a REST API that we have. For this one, so it's very technical, of course, but you're asking how to get the data from the phone via an API. So I think most of this will probably give you some ideas. For those of you who have worked with Freeforks before, you might have found this function that's called remote access. So I quickly switch it back to English so everyone can follow. Okay, so back in here, I think I have to, yeah. So there's this function allow remote access, and if you enable this, you get an address at the bottom of the Freeforks screen, which is just cut off again with the way I present it. So if I move it up here, so with this address, you can enter this into your web browser. Let me summon a web browser. I think it's opening somewhere, but I'm not sure. Okay, so I just take another window from here. Okay, and you just enter this address up here. So 192.168.2.148. So this, of course, this is my local IP address in my local network. Then you get this type of interface where you can remote control Freeforks. So I can start it here and the measurement starts on both. But this also acts as a REST API. So if you instead, I hope I get it right on the first try, extend this address by saying, oh, there's already an example in my history like this, you can get the actual data. So if I start the measurement again a little bit and collect a little bit more data and refresh this, you see there are more numbers in there. So this is actually a fully documented REST API that you can use. And from pretty much every programming language over the network interface, if you enable this remote access function, you can get the data. And in this example here, actually, this is from the end of 2017. So we have this function there for quite a while now. I use this, use a Python script to read out this interface and control a software synthesizer by tilting my phone. And you can also find this in our wiki. So where is it? REST API, so remote interface communication. Here we document how these requests work with Freeforks. And somewhere in there should also be a link to this YouTube video in which I demonstrated this. And a little bit hidden, but below this, there's also the actual Python script, which is not a perfect example, but where you can get an idea on how to interface with the REST API for Freeforks. So I would say there are about 3 options. Bluetooth, if this is the direction you want to go, because you're using an Arduino or something like this. You could use, so let's get my face back. Yeah, you could use the network interface, which is, I would say, the really professional way to collect data from your users, if there are multiple users who should collect data. Or you could use the REST API for quickly accessing it from pretty much every programming language. I hope this answers the question, and I hope it wasn't too extensive for everyone who's still around.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Sebastian, for the demonstration. So if this was improvised, it was very well improvised, I would say.
I did not pay anyone to ask this question, so but it's part of whenever I present Freeforks to a more geeky audience or to advanced audience, I have these slides in there. So
right. Thank you.
It's not the first time I explained this.
Yeah, and I think yeah, our audience also thanks you for this. Thanks a lot. We'll surely try all. That's good. So probably a very advanced person.
Also might be worth looking at our forums or simply contacting us if something doesn't work.
Okay.
This.
Thank you. Well, I think now we're at the end of today's discussion. I would like to thank all the panelists again for your presence here, for your wonderful contributions to this discussion. I'm really excited how this all turned out to be a very round and sound discussion. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, a big applause for you, for all of you also, Alexander, for your work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I would like to thank the audience for being with us and for listening to all of our wonderful speakers, and for the nice questions. And I would once again recommend that you participate to this hackathon and try to change the way STEM education is done. And there's definitely things to improve, as we learned today, and there's many people excited about it, and let's get more people excited about it as well. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you to
Thank
all
you.
of you. That was fantastic. Outstanding.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, and hope to see you soon in some or other way.
Of course.
Bye-bye.